Hi, this is Paul Solt from iPhone Dev TV. We're going to get started with the UI collection tutorial. And what I want to show you is how to build a functional piece of code or set of code that we can then combine into any of our apps that we create. And this is something that's going to be really useful so that you can improve the onboarding experience of your users. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll create a new Xcode project for this. And we're going to go application, single view application under iOS. We'll hit next. And in here, we'll call this the UI collection view tutorials. And I'll call them app tutorials. So we'll just call it with this name. Let's drop the UI. Let's just make it a little bit simpler. All right, so collection view app tutorials. That's what we're building. And this is what we're going to start with and work our way through it. We're going to build this just for iPhone to start, and we'll hit next. So now we want to save it in our projects folder. Now this is on my desktop, so I'll just put it right in here, and we'll hit create. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to start thinking about how the user interface is going to look. And to get started, I really want to have a view that's going to appear. So what we have in front of us is our view controller, but we're going to create a new class, and it's going to be called our PageViewController. And this is going to be to maintain all of the pages of our tutorials. And let's go ahead and create that. So if I click over here, I can right click and do a new file. When we do that, we're going to go to Cocoa Touch, Objective-C class, hit next. And in here, we are going to call this our PageViewController. And this is going to be UIViewController. And we'll also create an XIB file for this. So we'll be creating the interface file, and that will allow us to design it. That's going to be for iPhone. I'm not going to use Storyboard for this additional screen because I want to show you more about working with the XIB files. I feel that they are important to understand, take some of the magic out of the storyboard files so that you can fix problems easier rather than being mystified about how it all works. So let's go next. We'll make sure that it's added to our app tutorials target. You should see this little symbol here. That's important that check mark needs to be on. We don't need it for the tests. And then we hit create. All right, so in here we've got our blank canvas, and this is where we can start designing stuff. So Xcode's interface builder provides us some stuff to work with the collection views. And over here on the right, we can see some of that stuff. So we've got the table view stuff that we've worked with before. And then right over here, we've got the collection view and the collection view cell. We're going to be using both of these because we're going to create custom collection view cells that allow us to display both image, title, and description content. And our collection view is what we're going to set up on this screen. So as you can see, we drag it out. This allows us to have a image layout set up sort of like the Photos app, and it takes care of all of the layout for us, which is really important. So we'll just put that right here. And now we're going to want to look at some of the properties. So with the collection view, we have some layout options. The default one is the flow layout, which is just going to lay out stuff left to right, and it will go down. And we can have a vertical or a horizontal scroll direction. Now for this app, we're going to want the horizontal, and we're going to change the size of our cells so that they're going to be a little bit bigger. We have some section headers that we can add and section footers, and these are just additional sort of candy that you can put onto the iPhone app. There's different styles. We could have black, white, or the default, which is what we're looking at right now. And we can have scrolling and paging. So you can scroll through content, or you could have fixed content. That's the power of the collection view, is that it's very customizable, and it can actually be adapted to many different use cases. So I use this in my tutorial screens in Artwork Evolution, but I also use this in my map border app on a custom crop screen that I have been working on that allows users to quickly choose an aspect ratio. And so I have these special buttons that the user can tap on, and so you can tap on these different buttons to pick different aspect ratios. So you can really use your imagination with how the collection view can present data and how it can be adapted to any iPhone screen size. All right, so we're going to turn on paging and we're going to keep scrolling enabled. I think that's what we want. And I want this to load up on start. So we're going to have to tell our other view controller class about this. So when the view controller does appear, we're actually going to load a new class. And we're going to get rid of this did receive memory warning. We don't need to worry about that right now. So I'm in the view controller class, and we're going to override a method called view did appear. And we need to call the super method here for this. Otherwise, we can have some issues with things starting up. Now, the other thing that we have to do here is we have to tell this class about our PageViewController. And we'll just put that right there. And then down here, I just want to create the PageViewController, and we're going to do this. We'll fix this up later, but the goal is I want to get this on the screen right away. So I don't want this. I want to use the view controller for some optional settings that we'll add in one of the next videos, but I don't want it to be the first thing that appears because we're going to be testing the PageViewController. So it's important that we can see that right away, and we'll be creating it in code with the PageViewController alloc init method, and then we should be able to just say self.view present view controller. Sorry, it's not self.view. And then we pass in the view controller, which is our PageViewController. So a view controller is just another screen, and our PageViewController is going to manage the interactions that I was just demoing in the previous video. And here we can pass nil for the completion block. So these 3 lines of code we added with the import statement that tells this code file of our other file, and then these 2 lines, we should see a PageViewController appear, and it should have something here. We'll give this a color just so we know that it is going to appear. So that's going to be green. That's a really good tip anytime you're working with an iPhone app, is to alter the color of a different screen so that you can tell if a transition happens or not. And if it doesn't, then you can debug it. And so here you can see that this screen is appearing, but we don't have any content yet. All right. The other thing that we have in here are the size settings. So currently our cell size is 50 by 50. We're actually going to want to increase that. And as you can see, I can increase these values and they dynamically sort of give me a preview. Now, what I want for this app is I want it to be the full width. So we're going to go 320 points for the iPhone. And then I think 320 might be good. Let's see how that looks. Now, what I want to be aware of is how big the iPhone 4 is. And so we're on a Retina 4-inch screen. So if I switch this to the 3.5-inch screen, we'll see that this is just enough room to have some toolbars on the top and bottom. And we're going to actually have a toolbar on the bottom down here. So I need to make sure that I have space for that. So we're going to look for the toolbar on our object window over here on the right. And in here, if you can't find this stuff and you're a little behind, look for this little object icon and you're going to be on this tab bar. So we're going to drag out a toolbar and we've got it here. It's translucent right now. I can turn off the translucency so we can see it, and we can give it a different tint color or something just so that it stands out. And those are our options. So we've got one item in it. This will be, I probably only need one item. And I'm going to put a stretchable thing here. And our only item that we're going to have is a next button. So this is going to allow the user just to encourage them to go to the next image. And then we'll change this to a done button when they get to the very end. All right, so we have our collection view, and I actually don't want the collection view to take up the full screen. So we're going to resize our collection view if I can get a handle on its dimensions. And I really only want to make it 320 points tall, and we're going to center it right in the middle of the screen. So let's make sure we can have its cell size and its actual frame size. So right now it's 320. So I just scrolled down a little bit. We'll make this it's 321, and we'll just fix that so it's just 1 pixel. So now our cell size is going to be the same size as this. And the reason I'm on the smaller iPhone screen is because I want to make sure that we can get our page control in right here. So that's going to be those little white dots. And let's change the background of our view. So if you're looking at the hierarchy here, and you can see it if you click on this button, we can see that we have a view in the background. Now, much like we had changed this to a green, we're going to change our background color to another color just so it's distinct and we can see those white dots along the bottom. So now we should be able to run this, and we'll see we've got our red toolbar, we've got a next button that doesn't do anything, we've got this control thing that isn't connected, and then we've got this, but we can't really tell if there's any content there yet. So we'll need to add some custom cells so that we can get something there. So that is the gist of this layout. Now let's go ahead and just add some auto layout constraints so that these components stay in the places that we've given them. So what we're going to do is we're going to center this horizontally and vertically. And what I just did now is right click and drag up to our view, which is containing this view. So if we're looking at the hierarchy, this is like dragging from this to here. And I want to center and do it both horizontally and vertically. So we'll just hold shift and click on both of these. Then I can click off. And then I'm going to right click and drag diagonally. And I'm going to hold shift and click on the width and the height. And that's going to add constraints for that. Now we'll see that we went from orange to blue, which means that this is properly described. Now, if we look at these components, they are not. So we're going to have to add some stuff because right now they don't have any lines. So if it has lines, that means you've got auto layout. And this is just our way of telling Xcode, this is where I want this control to stay. So we can make sure that this page control is always a certain distance away from this so that it's always in a consistent spot. And then we're going to want to make sure that we center it with our image. So we'll also do the center X. I could have held the shift key and done both, but I just wanted to show you that you can do it in multiple attempts if you miss it, and it's no big deal. So that is our page control. It is centered. It is blue. We don't have any orange, which is good. And now we have this toolbar that we added, and so we're going to have to add constraints here. Now, I can't really get to the bottom, so I'm actually going to drag from the toolbar over to our view, and we will do the leading space. I'm holding shift, the trailing space, and then I want the bottom space a container. So now what we can do is we can stop and rerun. And we should be able to see this app is loading up and it looks like it's working. We can't tell if there's any page data yet because there's nothing there to demo. And we've got the buttons here. Now what happens if we switch to a different size screen? So we'll switch to the iPhone 4-inch up top. And here we have our page control. It looks centered here. The red is throwing off the layout a little bit, so making it so it's not so bright will definitely help us. And we'll probably want to switch this back to our default so it is not as crazy, and we'll just rerun that again. And so now we have a translucent bar, which isn't as overpowering, and we can hit the next button, but nothing is happening. So let's make sure we connect that button because that's going to be one of our hooks into working with things. And I'm going to have two constraints here. So we'll open up the assistant editor, and that's this button right here. And with the assistant editor, we can connect our code and our user interface files together. So I have the XIB file right here, so you can see it in the breadcrumbs, and I have the PageViewController.m over here. And there's this section up at the top where it says Interface PageViewController. We'll be adding our connections here. So I need a connection to the next button. So it's probably easiest if you click on it from our document outline on the left. Otherwise, you have to drill in to 2 layers. And let me just show you real quick. So normally when I click on the toolbar, it selects the toolbar first. And if I click again, then we get the element inside. And so I can do that same type of connection I can drag with a right click to our page view controller, and in here we can give it a name. So this is our next button. That is our outlet. That's going to allow us to change the name. We want to change it to a done button when the user gets to the very end. And then I also want to have an action associated with it. So instead of doing just an outlet like we did for the first one, you can see outlet here, we're going to do an action. And with this, we can just give this a name. And I like to make them very descriptive. So we'll say next button pressed. Now we have an action, we have a verb, and we connect it. All right, the next thing we need is we need an outlet to this so that we can work with it. And I'm going to create a new outlet right here. And this will be our collection view. All right, so we have the collection view and we have our other thing. The other thing we don't have is our page view controller. So let's add an outlet for that. We'll get to that in a later video. Sorry, this is the page controller. Page control, and we'll just connect that there. So we've got three references or three variables that we can use to now drive our interface over here on the left. And we've described the layout so that it works on the iPhone 4-inch screen so that we now have an interface to work with. Our next step is going to be creating a custom layout here and setting up our delegate methods and our data source so that we can start populating content in here. So it's going to be a multi-step course, and I hope that you can work with me on creating this control. I believe that this will help you make better apps and help your users understand how to use your apps.